Hey everyone, what's up? GamerGuy7Aces here. Right, so, is Sonic 3 and Knuckles really canon? Well, the answer is more complicated than a simple yes and no. As someone who worked on Sonic theories extensively for nearly 4 years and is currently working on Sonic Rebound while having to keep consistency with the lore, I feel I should talk about this because it's a known fact that there are inconsistencies with Sonic lore. Plus, Sonic 3 and Knuckles is my favorite game, the holy grail of the franchise basically. Now, you guys know the Sega Scourge. We've done a couple videos together in the past, plus he also voices Orbot in Sonic Rebound. He made a video recently about the and Knuckles portion of Sonic 3 and Knuckles being non-canon. I do see where he's coming from though. I always thought it was weird how Knuckles' story ended. I actually wasn't aware of it until much later in life because I only owned the Sonic 3 portion for a majority of my childhood until I was older. However, Master Emerald lore wasn't 100% established and fleshed out yet. Remember Knuckles knocking the Chaos Emeralds from Sonic in the beginning of the game? That has never happened ever since from any other character. Of course, over the years, people like me have theorized on how he did it, but at the end of the day, it's all just theories because ever since that game, only stronger forces of energy were able to knock Sonic out of his super form or separate the emeralds from him. For example, Eggman's big arm boss in Sonic 3, his enormous dildo-powered laser in Sonic Unleashed, and the Phantom Ruby in Sonic Mania. Anyway, back to the video Scourge made. He mentioned how it was strange for the Master Emerald to be in Sky Sanctuary during the Mecha Sonic boss fight while Angel Island was in the distance. Shouldn't it have fallen down? Well, it's a good thing I'm not doing Sonic theory debates anymore because I would have easily debunked this one. But I'll allow an old friend of mine to debunk this fallacy for me. He calls himself Anonymous Sonic Lore Guide 69. Anyway, the mic is yours.
Hey there, Gamer Guide. I just want to say thanks for having me here and giving me this opportunity to talk about this because I've had a bone to pick with this Sega Scourge guy for a while. He's got a lot of opinions that, if I may be blunt, are utterly stupid, and this guy uses frail evidence and fancy rhetoric to hammer down his points. Listen, he talks a lot about the Two Worlds canon in Sonic, and while that may ruffle a few feathers in the community, it's undeniably canon. But this, alright, this is beyond the boundary of what's acceptable to mess with. It's Sonic 3 and Knuckles. It is the Mona Lisa of classic Sonic games. I'll be damned if he's trying to claim that and Knuckles isn't canon, that the fight with Super Mecha couldn't have happened, and all because Angel Island was still in the background, hadn't fallen, even though the Master Emerald is right there on Sky Sanctuary. Now this is a complete miscarriage of the facts, because as you can see, not only does Angel Island rock back and forth steadily, but also it does in fact descend, albeit very slowly, throughout the course of the battle with Super Mecha. And by the 10-minute mark, when the player loses a life, it fell almost completely out of frame. From this, it's possible to assume that Angel Island takes about 10 minutes in total to fall into the ocean like we saw it do in Sonic Adventure 1. And we can find proof to this in, lo and behold, the IDW comics. Now, while some might say I'm shooting myself in the foot by bringing up the comics, which some might say are non-canon in and of themselves, it has been made crystal clear on multiple occasions, even by Ian Flynn, that the IDW comics are tied closely to the Sonic game canon and follow the rules of the modern canon, including the Two Worlds. Well, in the finale of issue 10 of IDW, we see Neo-Metal Sonic unplug the Master Emerald from Angel Island and use it to transform into Master Overlord. Knuckles states that without the Emerald's power, Angel Island will now fall into the ocean. But what follows in issue 11 is a 14-page battle scene against Master Overlord. All the while, the island is falling. By the time Knuckles gets the emerald back into the altar, the island only just touched the sea surface. In other words, some time had elapsed during the fight. Okay, this proves that the island falls, albeit very slowly. As you can see, this very minor inaccuracy wasn't even an inaccuracy, and the only thing inaccurate here was Sega Scourge's thinking. He literally did the very thing he runs down Two Worlds detractors for, trying to decanonize something that is clearly canon by taking small inconsistencies and blowing them way out of proportion, and frankly, that's just extremely hypocritical of him. But I think we can all breathe a sigh of relief now that that video is gone. Anyway, that's all from me. And I'll hand it back over to you now, Gamer Guide. Again, thanks for having me.
No problem, old friend. Anyway, that pretty much explains it. Now about Sky Sanctuary. According to Azuka, it's a forbidden area for everyone except for Knuckles. A temple suspended in the air from Angel Island, but still connected to it thanks to Hidden Palace. But the question is, how does it stay in the sky? Knuckles has alluded to a mysterious energy keeping this ancient ruin in the sky in Runner's Adventure, but this mysterious energy is actually the warp points. They're pretty much scattered all over the area of the Sky Temple as a means to keep them suspended, as well as being a fast way to traverse throughout the temple. Sonic Runners confirms this too when it shows an ancient artifact that manipulates gravity, which basically looks like Sky Palace's warp points. Funny how these two Sonic mobile games contain so much secret facts and information about Angel Island, almost like it was Sonic Team's way of answering age-old questions about the place. So, we've established that the warp points suspend Sky Sanctuary above Angel Island, and the Master Emerald obviously suspends Angel Island in the air to keep it afloat. But why did the Death Egg impact made it crash down to the ocean? How is that possible? Angel Island is powered by the Master Emerald, right? It's the most powerful gem in Sonic's world, with the ability to neutralize the Chaos Emeralds, so no other external force can bring the island down. For example, Zavok in Sonic IDW pummeled Angel Island with his fire breath, and all it did was rock the island a bit. Angel Island is down throughout S3 and K up until Dr. Eggman finally steals the Master Emerald from Hidden Palace. Once defeated and returned, the island floats again. But even when Eggman flies off with the Death Egg the first time in Sonic 3's Launch Base Zone, Angel Island is still in the water, despite the Master Emerald being intact. Only at the end of the game, when Hyper, or Super Sonic, defeats Eggman and returns the Master Emerald to Angel Island, does it finally float in the sky. It doesn't make much sense, to be honest. As great as S3 and K was in lore, the storytelling was still not perfect. I mean, what a surprise. Sonic storytelling has never been stellar or consistent. Sonic Adventure 1 retcons or soft reboots a lot of the lore, actually. For example, a hidden palace. What exactly is that? A hidden temple? Where the Master Emerald was originally stored? Why is the Master Emerald now out in the open since Sonic Adventure 1, making it more vulnerable to enemies? Was Hidden Palace just there to show off the ancient Echidna mural foreshadowing in S3 and K? And Sky Sanctuary is supposed to be the sacred place that only Knuckles is allowed to enter, yet we see Sonic and Tails go through the place in Sonic 3 Knuckles. Even in Sonic Runners, we see many of Sonic's friends run through Sky Sanctuary, although it's not quite clear how canon the gameplay is. Also, Carnival Night Zone. What the hell is a carnival doing in Knuckles Island? And why don't we ever see it again? Even the American manual calls it a separate island to make sense out of the story, calling it Carnival Island in Knuckles Chaotix, which is adjacent to Angel Island. I mentioned more of this in my Mighty and Ray theory 2 years ago. Roll it. Now, Knuckles Chaotix is a weird game, and most Sonic fans have never tried to include this in the canon, counting it as a separate spin-off, even though this is not only the game where we see Mighty again, but the one where Chaotix makes their first appearance, hence the name Knuckles Chaotix. This was actually their origin story, so in a way Knuckles created the detective group. Now the game is split into two different continuities though. For some reason, the story varies between the Japanese and Western releases of the game, with completely unrelated storylines. I won't bother reading the entirety of both stories, but the huge differences are that the Japanese version is about a mysterious island that rises from the Southern Sea a few months after the events of Sonic and Knuckles, whereas the Western version calls the mysterious island Carnival Island. The plot starts out on the day before the opening day of Carnival Island, a huge amusement resort with the latest in high-tech rides and games. As the guardian of the island, Knuckles' job was to make sure nothing went wrong before the grand event. Now, which version is the more canon one?
Well, the Japanese story continues from the lore of Sonic 3 and Knuckles, with Dr. Eggman discovering a mysterious ring with ancient inscriptions dating back to the Knuckles clan, and learning that the rings can carry chaos energy, which are the chaos rings, underlines the whole rubber band mechanic from Knuckles Chaotix. So basically, Eggman wants to learn more about the rings that Sonic and his friend uses to summon the Master Emerald, so he builds New Tragic High Zone to serve his high-tech research fortress. Now, I understand that the Western version wanted to connect the whole Carnival Night Zone from Sonic 3 with Carnival Island to explain the landmark's entire existence, especially when we take New Tragic High Zone into account, a place that Eggman built specifically into the game Knuckles Chaotix, it does leave a bit of a plot hole since it resembles Carnival Night Zone. But the Western version story just doesn't add anything to the lore of Sonic and is very situational.
Inherently, the story goes like this. Dr. Robotnik is cooking up a new dastardly scheme, and to feel for his latest diabolical device, he goes to Carnival Island to find the power emerald that supplies electricity to the entire island, which would fit into his plan perfectly. That's about it, which is quite vague. What's the power emerald? Isn't that referring to the Master Emerald? I'm not going to dwell on how lacking the Western story is, but it's obvious that the West doesn't care much about Sonic lore as much as the Japanese did back then when publishing these games. So I'm going to go with the Japanese version being canon, especially for the fact that Mighty, Espio, Vector, and Charmy all arrive at the mysterious floating island for different reasons and end up being captured and placed in the Combi Catcher machine by Eggman and Metal Sonic. In the Western version, they're all already on the island and are Knuckles' friends, so Robotnik just freezes them in the Combi Catcher to stop them from interfering with his plans. Yeah, that sounds pretty lame if you ask me. Anyways, back to the canon version. Knuckles deduces that something was amplifying the power of the Master Emerald Pillar, so he heads to the mysterious adjacent island and manages to rescue Espio along the way. They make their way to the world entrance where they find the others, then go on to stop Dr. Eggman from succeeding in his plans. Afterwards, the Chaotix is born. So the truth is, Americans in general tried so hard to make sense out of Sonic's storytelling and lore without properly consulting the Japanese first about it. As you know history, there were tensions between the two teams, Sega of America and Sega Japan. They didn't always see eye to eye, from as simple as how Sonic looks, which is why he looks different in both countries. This also explains the whole Sonic SatAM, the birth of Archie Sonic, and the planet Mobius. Sonic's world of only Anthros, no humans. That's actually where Iizuka got his whole two worlds canon from. Americans tried to retrofit things in the Archie comics when the adventure games came out in the late 90s, calling them Highlanders and whatnot. Now, I really don't want to get into the Archie comics. That's a story for another day. Bottom line, Sonic 3 Knuckles is more canon than not being canon. It's canon because it's what the original trilogy was building up towards, the lore about the ancient Echidna race, the Master Emerald, and all that. At the same time, its canonicity can be questioned simply because some things were just not well thought out at the time, until much later when Sega could organize the storytelling a bit better with the Echidna's history. Even after SA1, the lore continued expanding until Sonic Chronicles with the Nocturnus clan, which is no longer canon, quote unquote, because of the whole Ken Penders debacle. Sonic lore is batshit insane and inconsistent, so this is nothing new. I mean, just look at Sonic the Hedgehog 4. I remember when their website was still active, and they had that rare manual about Knuckles' story happening at the same time as Sonic's story in S3K, and CD coming after that. However, Sonic 4 is not finished. This has absolutely nothing to do with it being a good or bad game. The story is just incomplete. It ends with Sonic and Tails escaping in pods with Eggman's Death Egg Mark II shutting down. The end. What happens after that? What happens to Eggman and his ship? There was clearly going to be at least 3 episodes to this that would have concluded the story and tie everything together, but it never happened. So why should we continue to regard it as canon? That's like me writing a story that's not finished that contradicts all my previous stories and retcons them. It just doesn't count. Maybe that's why Sega trashed the website containing the manual and have remained silent on it. Many people don't even remember about that lost manual. At this point, Sonic 06 is more canon than Sonic 4, and 06 never happened, right? I mean, at least it was still in Generations. And last but not least, we've all heard about Hypersonic not being canon. I won't get into it that much since we already know what Iizuka said about it, but to me, I personally feel it's canon, but extremely rare to achieve, kind of like Ultra Instinct in Dragon Ball Super. But hey, that's just my headcanon, which I'll explore more in Sonic Rebound's future. Speaking of Rebound in IDW comics, I always thought Mecha Sonic was the prototype of Neo Metal Sonic, especially after the Super transformation. He achieves it the same way he does in the game via the Master Emerald, and I have reason to believe the IDW comics are canon with the games due to how faithful they stay with the game lore and Sega's mandates. At least until Sega denounces it, there's no reason to believe IDW isn't canon. Anyway, that wraps it up for this lengthy rebuttal. What do you guys think? Sound off in the comments below. Alright, it was nice making this little semi-Sonic theory discussion / rebuttal video. So let me know what you think. What do you think? Do you think Sonic 3 and Knuckles is absolutely canon? Do you think it's not canon? Do you think it's half and half? Or do you think it's just up to these writers, whatever they do, whether they're competent or not? Alright guys, smash the like button, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And until next time, keep it based. I'm out.